What's up, colleagues, and welcome to Friends from Work. I'm Al Jackson, and I am joined by one of my best friends in the world, probably somebody that's known me the longest right now, Forrest Shaw. Welcome. You are an official colleague. How are you?
I'm good. I only am doing this to tell you I'm no longer your best friend. So sorry to tell you that.
Why would you do that here when you could have texted me in the middle of the night like you usually do?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah. Yes, colleagues. I've known Forrest. I was a young comic in Miami, and you well, how did we you have a memory? The best thing about Forrest, colleagues, is that for all the hanging out late nights that we've had in our life, Forrest has a memory like Google. So he just remembers everything. So how did we meet, Forrest?
At an open mic. I for years, not years, for months, I would go to the open mic at the Miami Improv to see if I could do comedy because that's where you start comedy. So I would go like scout it. And I distinctly remember the first open mic I ever went to because you had been doing comedy a little bit longer than I mean, you started before me, and I think you were good pretty quick. And the first open mic I ever went to was you, then Malik Sannon, who lives out here now, super funny. And both of you guys killed it. And I was like, man, I can't do this. And then the next person that came up was an insane person. So, and they didn't do any jokes.
Do you know what I think about all the time? And it's something that you had, and it's not your fault because you lost it when your laptop was stolen, along with some messages that I sent you that should be in the Smithsonian. But we knew back then that we should be recording those open mics because they were full of like I think now if you want to do stand up and you're a normal person, if it was like Brandon says he likes my McDonald's jersey. This is the jersey of the minor league team for the Colorado Rockies. But yes, it does look like I'm sponsored by Ronald McDonald. Now I can't unsee that. So thank you, Brandon.
I just saw your glasses and I assumed it was whatever skeet shooting team you're a part of. So
it's a sport, okay. But yeah, there were just now if you want to do stand up or do anything, there's the internet, so you can say I wanted to get into bird watching, and there's blogs you can watch, there's people you can follow, you can learn how to do anything. Back in the day, if you wanted to do stand up, you just showed up and you didn't know what to do. And sometimes you're forced and you're a normal guy that's going to end up being a professional comic, professional television writer. And sometimes you're a crazy person that just wants to hear your voice into a microphone be amplified through speakers to strangers. And everyone was invited. And I really hate that we do not have that, even though we were ahead of our time and we were like, we need to be recording. Do you remember the woman that used to go up with the balloons tied to her ears?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I remember that? Of course I remember that. It's a core memory. But this is what I always say. First of all, sometimes you were not only did you not have the internet for use of that, you would just be driving hours to go to a place to maybe do 3 or 4 minutes. But the analogy I always make for comedy is the music open mic, because you'll go to an open mic sometimes and it's musicians.
I think I've blocked those memories out, but continue.
Well, no. I mean, if you're a musician and you're like, I'm going to an open mic to play a couple songs and stuff, you have a couple songs. You know what I'm saying?
Good point.
Yeah. with comedy, people are just like, yeah, I'm just gonna give it a whirl. They'll show up with no jokes, no format, no, and they just go up there and just spout nonsense. It would be the equivalent if you just were like, yeah, I can't play guitar and I've never written a song, but I'm just gonna go up and give it a whirl, and the open mic. So
I've never played guitar. Before I pick one up, I want to do it in front of strangers. Like that is the same logic.
Yeah.
I just had this random memory. Do you remember there was this young Haitian kid? He was an open micer. He was he's like 6'3", 6'4". And he went up on this open mic and it was packed. The thing is, open mics, I know you always picture like a coffee shop, but the open mics in Miami would be like 350 people because people would bring 5, 10, 15 other family members, which is insane. And there was this young Haitian kid and he went up and he walked out on stage and he was like, his parents were there. He was like, all right, ma, You said I didn't have the courage to do it, but here the boy is. Hey, baby bro, look, I'm up here doing it. You said I wouldn't, but your brother's doing it. And somebody in the crowd goes, well, do it, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
I remember how funny the audience was and just like how crazy that scene was and how you just cannot recreate the Miami comedy scene.
I can't believe you don't remember his name. His name was George Bush.
Was that his name?
Yes. I promise you this. And it was always like,
I
is that your
believe
real
it.
name? Yeah, yeah.
Well, remember, I taught middle school, and the colleagues have heard this before. I had a student named Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a cool ass Haitian kid. And I told the teacher in the break room, like my first year teaching, I was like, I have a kid named Lyndon B. Johnson on my roll. Isn't that crazy? And like, he was like a burned out teacher. And he's like, I had a Woodrow Wilson last year, like just like without missing a beat. I don't know what it is with people from the islands, but they love their U.S. presidents.
Rutherford B. Hayes. I know. No, I don't know, but
yeah, I am. This is. We could talk about this forever. But Forrest, really quickly, just give us a brief overview of like your career, what you've been doing, and what you got coming up.
So before I was a stand-up comedian, I was a marine biologist. I was when I met you, as you know. I would.
Yes, we were both in biology.
Correct. Yeah. And then in 2010, October of this year will be 15 years that I have been doing only stand-up comedy, quote unquote, quit my day job. I have my resignation letter, and it's very disrespectful to the people that I worked for. I read it.
Was it worse than my resignation letter?
I wish I would have it pulled up right now, but no, nothing's worse than your resignation
letter. Can
you
tell the colleagues what my resignation letter from teaching middle school was?
Okay, well, I don't have it anymore because it's on that computer that was stolen. But you had stayed at my house for a little bit, and so you guess you just used my computer to type up this letter, so it was on my computer.
Some people would say I stayed at your house. Others would say I had nothing, and I slept on an air mattress in your den. So yes, you said that very nicely.
Look, I was trying to be nice, and so I just stumbled across it one day.
Forrest, really quickly, Michael Dean wants to know. Tell everybody how the computer that had all of our history on it got stolen.
Oh, I got my house. They just got broken into. Somebody broke the window, like on a French door. That opened up the door, got in. They stole my laptop. They stole a couple different computers. They stole a camera. They stole a bunch of stuff. And I remember the cops came there, by the way, and they didn't even like hide the fact they're not going to catch the guy. I was like, yeah. So what do you think the chances are? And they're like, yeah, you're not getting any of this stuff back. Like,
cops
we're not working on this case.
They're like, you're lucky we showed. We were literally driving by. That's why we're here.
You know what else they stole? Because I remember the cops are going around the house and they were fingerprint. Why would they fingerprint if they're not going to do anything? And I had a bottle of Patron XO, which was the coffee flavored Patron, in my freezer. And I went to go get it, and it just wasn't in there. I go, add another thing to the list. For some reason, they just stole this coffee flavored tequila.
Freezer?
Yeah, you put it in the freezer, make it cold. It goes down.
No, I'm saying that the criminals went in there. That's so violating.
I think sometimes people hide money in the freezer and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
or always in the movies they do in a popsicle box. They put some diamonds or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but maybe that's what it was. So on this computer, you had typed up a letter. You were. It was the beginning of the school year. You were a teacher in public school system in Miami-Dade County, and it was the beginning of the school year, and you were not coming back to teach. You were doing comedy full time, but you had forgot to inform the public school system that you were coming back, that you were not coming back. So you wrote a letter, and it said something to the effect that was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that the late in corresponding, my assistant, you were sleeping in my house on the floor. You didn't have an assistant. my assistant did not contact you." And then you did this. You said, "I was overseas entertaining troops."
So bad.
You tried to throw some patriotic thing in there, like, "Oh, this guy's, you know, I was gonna get mad at him, but he's entertaining troops, so I can't get mad."
This was a different Al. I didn't even. It was beyond irresponsible. It was just like, oh, I need to make a decision about my entire life. I think I'm going to do stand up. Like a lot of people, like figure out their money for the next year, have some saved up. Now, yes, this was thank you, Michael Dean. He did remind me that I did go on a bunch of USO tours after that, so I feel like I made up for the stolen valor
Yeah.
that I used in that moment.
Don't worry about all the kids that were just wondering why there wasn't a teacher in class. The first
I had 5.5 years. You know, when I kind of knew I couldn't teach anymore, we had done a gig, and we're going to get to the main story right after this. We had done a gig at the University of Florida, which is in Gainesville, which is what, about 3.5 hours from Miami. And I drove back. We did the show, we hung out, and then we drove back. And I remember I stopped at the BP. We got no sleep. We all just went straight to work, and I chugged a huge coffee at BP, and I like looked at my face in the rearview mirror, and I was like, these two lifestyles cannot continue to be in the same person. It was just like, after a while, it just like I had to make that decision. But it's not like, it was scary. I like teaching, and I didn't know if I could make another dollar doing stand-up, so I went for it. So, all right, with that said, Forrest, we are glad you are here. You're going to be here more often, as long as you continue to send me money. So let's get to our main story. All right. Well, you know, we had to get to it. Charlie Kirk, all the things going down. The FBI has now said that they're hunting a college-age suspect after recovering the bolt action rifle. I believe when the bolt action, the one that was used on Kennedy, I believe. And it said that I didn't click on this story. It's so weird because I thought it was clickbait. MSNBC fires Matthew Dowd over his comments, and the State Department warns that foreigners who glorify Kirk's death could be barred from the U.S. So first of all, let's start with just like, what are your thoughts on the Charlie Kirk thing? And do you know anything about the Matthew Dowd situation? So answer the first question first. Like, where were you when you heard about Charlie Kirk, and what were your first thoughts?
I heard from a friend of ours, Amos Gill, you know, his comic, and I was actually calling him. He's overseas, just to see how the tour was going, and then he's like, "Are you calling me about Charlie Kirk?" And I was like, "What? Like, no. Why would I be calling you about Charlie? You know?"
Right.
And he said he got shot, and then I was driving my car, so I was just like, "Okay." And then when I got home, I, like you're gonna do, I went online just to see what the news was, and I wish I hadn't, because then you see the video, and the video is very graphic. Obviously, everybody saw it, and awful.
Right.
But I'll tell you, like, I obviously it's very tragic, like what happened, but it's, my reaction is not the same that it would have been 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 15, because gun violence is so, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so numbing in this country, where it's just like, it's every day somebody gets shot. And politicians too. I mean, Minnesota that got shot. There was a school shooting yesterday, and I think it's just a telling statement of how I felt, like, internally. Like, I wasn't happy about. Obviously, some people said they were celebrating because he's right wing. I mean, it's disgusting what happened, you know. And but I also am just numb to it now, because I'm an American. I'm just like, yeah, this is the country we live in. There's gun violence. People get shot every single day. It's just kind of like, we're like, this is part of, it's like you getting in a car every day, and you're like, well, I could die, because a lot of people die in car accidents, but I still got to drive in a car and get to work, and, you know, whatever. So that was really,
Forrest, to make your point for you,
24 hours ago, that's just numbing.
Yeah, and don't lose your train of thought. I was just going to say, as you were talking, you know, as I was learning about, because obviously the shooting, the school shooting was here in the Denver metropolitan area, in this place called Evergreen. It's about 35 minutes from here. They cut into the school shooting story to talk about the Charlie Kirk shooting. That is where we are. They're cutting into school shooting stories to talk about university shooting stories. Of course, you're numb. We're all numb. So please continue. Did you see did you see what happened with that?
Just one more thing I wanted to say, though, is as a comedian, there's an extra layer to it, I think, because everyone's looking at this from like well, he wasn't a politician, but he was in the political world, you know, and he was obviously a huge figure in there. So I just look at it as forget free speech kind of thing. It's like you can be shot for something you said now in this country. Like, and the school shootings, they're terrible too, but that's like a whole different world of just like, well, maybe they were bullied, or maybe this, or maybe they're mentally ill, and but this comes in like, that's what I thought of when I saw this. I'm like, well, I guess now if I'm at a comedy club and I say something somebody doesn't like, they could shoot you, which already is a possibility, but that's what I thought about a lot. Charlie Kirk. Now, as far as the Dowd, like getting fired, I think it's kind of like where we've been heading like lately, but I think it's also
What did he say? Do we know?
I don't know if
Michael
it's
Dean,
ironic
can you pop on and tell us what Matthew Dowd said?
Yeah. Hey guys. It was a back and forth this morning with anchor Katie Tur, and he remarked saying, quote, hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which lead to hateful actions. That was it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, there is this line that everybody's trying to tread when it comes to, and thank you, Michael Dean, when it comes to people like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk would have told you he is a provocative. Maybe he really didn't see what he was saying as being provocative, but I'm sure with the response he got, you realize that it's being provocative. It's like if you're in another country and I say something in Spanish and you stand up and want to fight me, I might not have meant to say it, but I know whatever I just said was provocative. Whatever Charlie Kirk was doing was generating that response from half of the internet. And the other half was like, hey, speak on it. He had a right to speak about it, but he did know that what he was saying was considered hateful by a large amount of people. Does that mean A plus B equals C equals he should have been killed? Absolutely not. But what that anchor said was speech that is considered hate speech is going to garner anger. And unfortunately, there are people that we saw with January 6th, people were angry about the perceived results of the election, and they killed 5 cops and maimed about 100 more. This is how people react. And so what he said on its face doesn't seem to be inaccurate. You can say that an anchor should be more like down the line and shouldn't be as opinion based. But I don't think that he said he didn't say he deserved it. If a Klansman had been shot and killed, do you think he would have been fired for making those same comments? I'm not saying Charlie Kirk was a Klansman, but the Klansmen do traffic and hate speech. So do you think he would have been fired for making that exact same thing?
I think probably not, because unless the Klansman was integral to the current party and the Republican Party's narrative. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like a mouthpiece for them, this current administration. And I just think it's very hypocritical that it's like, look, if we are saying, and I think everybody is saying this, that you should not be shot and killed for an opinions, or even if you're saying stuff that is hateful, you also shouldn't be fired for saying the same thing about that person, because that is the foundation of everybody wants to always quote the Constitution here, and the First Amendment is freedom of speech. So if he's allowed to say stuff without getting shot, which he is, Charlie Kirk's allowed to say what, and I don't agree with it. Everything I've ever seen by him, I don't agree with,
Right.
But he's allowed to say it. So Dowd's allowed to say it. And also, it's not like he went up there and was like dancing on his grave, or he was just like, hey, look, this is kind of like what he was. And I don't think that would be argued, but maybe some people think he was an angel or something like that, but it is, it's just like a sign of the times, like where we're at, right now, because what especially with media and the way everything that is said on one side is like, even if you look at the assassinations, because they were assassinations too, of the lawmaker in Minnesota, the state senator and the husband. Absolutely. And their dog, and on top, and then Nancy Pelosi's husband, and then someone tried to shoot Trump,
Gabby Giffords, yeah.
Like, it's like, this is that's happening in the country. It's like I remember, I think Reagan was the last in my lifetime that any president or politician that I can remember was shot at. And now it's just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. you know, or politician adjacent with Charlie Kirk, you know, I mean, he's in that realm. But yeah, it's got to be a scary time if you're in public office like that, no matter what side you're on, because now it's just what happened yesterday is terrible, because it's just going to keep stoking all that hate. I mean, I just saw something. The Minnesota thing was 2 months ago. I swear that was a year ago. But that's how quick we just like move on. We're like, yeah, anyways, people got shot that are lawmakers.
You know, Forrest, to bring the conversation full circle before we move forward, when you said the Minnesota thing, I wasn't sure if you were talking about the Minnesota lawmakers that were shot and killed, or the kids
State
that
Senator.
were shot and killed at mass that morning. Which one were you? Which Minnesota shooting? Can you be more clear? Because you have to be in this country.
That's what I was saying at the very beginning. Is just it's almost like a shooting every day is like seeing a star. It's like Starbucks at this point. They're on every corner. You know, you see it's just part of it's like, for lack of a better word, ubiquitous. It's just like, this is part of how we live in America now. And I have, you know, I've been lucky enough to travel around the world doing comedy, and I have friends in other countries that call me and are like, they used to call me and be like, are you okay? And now they're just like, what are you still doing there? You know, just it's bananas.
It absolutely is. I mean,
that was a school shooting plus an assassination yesterday. That was a double whammy yesterday. There was a school shooting plus another school shooting in a university with Charlie Kirk. I mean, and we're just like, we're not even talking about that. There's all these thousands of kids. I mean, they're kids, these college kids that are out there exposed to another shooting. All of those kids are going to need therapy now, need to go to some sort of therapist or psychoanalyst, something. All of them there, because they're just sitting there watching that shot. Yeah.
I listened to this podcast with this comedian who was telling a story about, there was a shooting literally on the same street I used to live on in Culver City in Los Angeles. There's a shooting at Santa Monica College. And this is probably, I've been in Denver 7 years. So this is probably 10, 12 years ago. And by the way, Elijah's elementary school was right up the hill from Santa Monica College. Like, you could see it if you were at the top of the hill. And she was telling the story, and she was like, she thought she had gotten over it, and she was out with her boyfriend like 2 years later. And, you know, they're at the movies, and like a gunshot went off that was off screen, just the sound of a gun. And she said she fell apart in the movie theater. And I think that's the thing, is like, everybody's like, oh, move on from that. Oh, move on from that. But like, we are leaving pockets of people that are scarred, people that check their phone and were like, my daughter's at this rally right now. My son goes to that school in Minnesota. You know, they like, even the people that are tangentially associated with these people are forever scarred. Our old executive producer, Chris Clark on DBL, there was a shooting at his son's school, and his son's friend got shot by a ricochet bullet and kind of nicked his calf. And he said his son came home and had blood on him. It wasn't his. But just seeing that, like, your kid was that close to bullets flying at school. Everybody is so profoundly affected by this, and we just try and act like, oh, it's another. We say thoughts and prayers when we move on. So, with that said, we're gonna move on as well. Let's do this. Let's because this is kind of your wheelhouse, so I want to get into this, because this is what you talk about. All right, Michael Dean, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. I did want to get into what Charlie Sheen had to say. Obviously, there's the documentary out on Netflix right now called AKA Charlie Sheen. He's got a book out. He's kind of doing the whole press tour thing. And he talks about Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, if you will. What was the last Eastwood movie you saw, by the way?
I saw that one where he is like running drugs for people in his truck. He's like,
oh, the Mule or something like that.
Mule, yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even see that movie, but I know that title. Well, Clint Eastwood called Charlie Sheen and staged an intervention for him. And Charlie Sheen said the intervention didn't take until later, but that was the kind of the catalyst that started the reaction that started him down the road to at least thinking about and then eventually getting sober. So Forrest, this is something I've been on your podcast now 3 times. I don't think has my third one aired yet?
It just did a couple of days.
Well, thanks for not telling me so I can't promote it. Why don't you give us the name and then tell us like what gets you into the world of sobriety and like all the issues that you've had and we've all had.
I haven't made the clip yet. I'm gonna give you the clip to share. What are you gonna share? Just yell it out to the ether?
Give me a link or something. You don't just let it go into the ether. It's not a fart. It's a podcast.
The name of the podcast is called I've Got a Problem. And it's I say it's like a humorous podcast about addiction because I don't want to be disrespectful and be like it's hilarious, you know. But there you go, there's a little logo. And I talk about I've had the majority of people I've had on are comedians that are recovering addicts in some way. I've also had an author. I just interviewed a psychoanalyst today too, and I am a gambling addict, and that has been an issue for me as long as I can remember my whole life. So I think with addiction, one of the really important things, if you're an addict, is to do as many things as possible to keep yourself from using or doing whatever it is. So whether that's going to meetings, therapy, whatever. So I just said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do a podcast because every time I do this podcast, it's like going to another meeting or going to therapy or something like that. I learned something new. It's something I've never thought about. With in relation to Charlie Sheen, because I saw this, I read this, and I think it's really interesting. I ask 8 questions at the end to each of my guests. I just started doing that maybe 10 episodes ago. So I asked you last episode for the first time. And one of them is, what is something you did? I'm not reading out the papers that is like a small thing that somebody did, but that meant more than they knew. Kind of like, you know, just a thing that like sometimes people do something and then they don't realize how big of an action that is to put you into action or to create some sort of change. And so that's what I thought of when I read this. Was I was like, I don't think Clint Eastwood thought like, hey, I'm Clint Eastwood, and if I call it like this is really going to stem. I think he just thought like, hey, I care about him, and so I'm going to say something to him. And for whatever reason, that ended up resonating with Charlie Sheen, which is the point I always make to people is like, always say something. Like if you know somebody that's struggling, like whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, whatever it is, like don't be afraid to say something, you know. And even if you get rebuffed sometimes, but because you never know like how that's going to change somebody. Right now, I was very overweight. I'm still overweight now, but I lost about 75 pounds so far.
Hey,
and,
shout out. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Man.
And a friend of mine, a comedian friend of mine, said to me that he just like a good friend of mine, Jimmy O Yang, he's a really funny comic and actor and stuff. He just one day said to me like, hey, you gotta like get healthy, lose weight, like you're gonna feel better, XYZ. And other friends have said things similar and other people, but for whatever reason, that was the one that was just like, I remember going home and I just texted him. I go, hey, thanks for saying that because you know, I that for whatever reason was kind of like the catalyst that put me when I saw this story, you know, with Charlie Sheen. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I know that there were things that you said. You made little comments about me drinking, not like snide comments, but like things that stuck with me. I was like, oh, if the person I'm out hanging out with is like, yo, you need to maybe not drink anymore tonight. I was like, you know, it just, but you take it in and then you kind of walk with it. And I feel like it's almost like when you have a dream and you wake up and nothing really makes sense, but you spend your whole day like, why was my dad my 8th grade teacher? You know, like when you're trying to figure it out throughout your day, that's kind of how it is where you get the little nuggets from people that really care about you to just be like, hey, you're overweight or you're drinking a little bit too much or the gambling's a little bit out of control. And I'll tell you, like my first little mini intervention, I don't think I've ever told you this. I was at my friend Mark Petty's house, who you know, my boy in Cleveland, and he had just gotten his first house and he had a barbecue and we got wasted, day drunk, cheap Cleveland liquor, J&B or whatever, E&J, whatever cheap brandy we were drinking. And I somehow made it outside near his fire pit and passed out back there. I think everybody thought I had just gone home. So he locked his screen door And so I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning or whatever and tried to get in. I couldn't. I just went back and laid back on the ground outside and went to sleep. Woke up at like 7, banging on the glass door. I remember his older brother was at his house, like he brought coffee and bagels, and he was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And so, I was like, oh man, it's fine. I'm hungover, all to be damned. I make my way home. I was definitely visiting my mom if I was in Cleveland. And I got to, my room that she had left since high school. And there was a note on the pillow, and it was just like, I'm worried about you. I think you're drinking a little bit too much. And I remember I was like reading that as I was hung over as shit. I was like, maybe she has a point, as there's dirt on my clothes. Like I slept outside of my friend's home. I didn't have a lot of leg to stand on. Like, get off my back, mom. Like it's like currently I'd slept on the cold Ohio grass dirt all night. So yeah, but it's like I still drank for another 3 or 4 years, but clearly I remember that now. And that was probably 20 years ago.
That's the chipping away that you need to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Again, what's the movie? Shawshank Redemption, when he's a little rock hammer and he gets to the wall. Like, that's the same thing as like, it's not going to just be one person and then you're like, I'm getting clean, but that was like one of that little pieces of rock that came out of there until there's, until you have the freedom to go through that, and by the way, I just made up that analogy, so I don't know if it works, but
no, that's perfect. That's a good one, actually.
The Charlie Sheen, you remember when he was like Tiger Blood and winning and all stuff? Like,
yes.
Like he clearly needed help, and everybody was just like, this guy's crazy. Like he needed that person, like that was him sleeping next to the fire pit. Or for me, I mean, I think the story, but it's like my mom basically thought that I was going to harm myself at one point because of my gambling stuff. I wasn't, I'm in that mindset, I remember that, but that's where she thought. So she called the cops on me because she wanted to do like a mental health check, basically. And once I found that out, she was like blocking my car in the driveway. I had a wooden fence that surrounded my whole townhouse, the place I live. And then I had like a patio, like I made a nice fish pond that I made and trees and stuff. And so there was a parking lot on one side, and then there was like just a yard on the other side, and then out into the public. And so I locked that wooden gate and I put myself in the house and I turned all the lights off, I remember, to try and pretend like I wasn't home, because I'm like, they're not taking me. The cops are coming. Real smart. Yeah, they're going to be like, nothing to see here, ma'am. He's not home, clearly. And I had like a sliding glass door that led to that other side of the gate where I could jump the fence and I'd be free. And so I decided too late to do that. I went to the sliding glass door in just shorts, like a cutoff tee and flip-flops. And I remember trying to run across the patio before the cops came over the fence, and I lost the flip-flop, but I was like, gotta leave it. And then I just went to go jump the fence and they were coming over. So I just hid behind a bush that was about 2 times too small to cover my body. So it was really a bush that was like the size of my torso, just like maybe they won't see me. And the cop, I remember he just saw the flip-flop, this is the flashlight. And then he just followed it, and then me behind a tiny shrub, and he just unenthusiastic. It was like, there he is right there. And then I got up and I just go, yeah, what are you doing on my property? Like I came at him like, get up.
You started to go Second Amendment with it.
Yeah. And they have the right, the same way, at least in the state of Florida, which is a good law. It's called the Baker Act. It was a politician. The last name was Baker. And if your family member or a police officer thinks that you're a threat to yourselves, they can detain you for 48 hours, put you in a psych evaluation to make sure that you're. And I did that, and I fought like the whole way. But then looking back, it. By the way, that wasn't like the first time I wasn't like didn't get out and like I'm clean, but that was a huge chunk of that rock coming out that my mom instigated. And at the time I was really mad at my mom. I remember saying like awful things to her, but then looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was what somebody had to do to get me to this place,
Yeah. Well, Forrest, I want to ask you this because I've always wondered, we've kind of had this, I don't even know if we've ever had this conversation, but I'm looking at the chat here, and Shelly, who just jumped on. Shelly, what up, girl? She says, I have a former boyfriend who tried to do an intervention on me for meth, and he was a giant pothead. So like, do you have like, do your hands have to be clean in order to do an intervention? Because that's going to be that's the first thing I would say. I'd be like, how are you telling me like you're a pothead?
Well, then you could have an intervention for them too, but separately. You're not going to do it at the same time. That's what we just talked about in the last segment, that this whole country is like, well, you guys, the left is doing this, the right is doing, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, so I remember when I had my official intervention with my family, my grandfather was there, and he even said, like, during the intervention, he goes, yeah, maybe I'm an alcoholic. Like, it just came to him that it might be something like that. And on top of that, my stepdad was there, who we later found out was a compulsive gambler too. So he was just kind of hiding in the shadows there. I think that that's okay if that person was still recognizing that you needed help. I think Shelley was, so I still think that they're coming at you with love overall there, you know, which I think is important. And then you could also tell them, not during the intervention, you know, but I think it's still valid to come back and be like, hey, you know, we're gathering some people around here too, or at least want to send you a message. I think that smoking too much pot is it. So, you know, it's,
I mean, it's
I think if the
interesting
person
because
fall down drunk, it's not going to be a well organized intervention. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what Shelley said and what you just said made me think of something, because weirdly, during the pandemic, because I stopped drinking right before I think I just stopped drinking in December. And so I was newly sober when the pandemic hit. And as the pandemic went on, I started to have friends. I never was like, hey, everybody, I'm sober because I'm awesome. Get on this train. I didn't mention it. It was not that it wasn't a thing to me, but it wasn't something I kind of led with. And people that I worked with, people that we know mutually, started reaching out to me. And matter of fact, I'm going to see one of them this weekend when I'm in Seattle. You know, that people were just like, hey, I think I might have a problem. I think I might, you know, I've got a problem, like the name of your podcast. And, you know, as I was doing there became so many guys on the call. We started making it a Zoom when it was initially just 2 guys that I was kind of helping. It eventually became 12 guys. And one of the people I had kind of come in to speak was our friend, Jesse Joyce, great comic. He's a writer for all the Comedy Central roast. Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, he's great. And I knew Jesse when he drank, and he's been sober for 15, 20 years now. But there was a guy on the Zoom call who was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He was like, I don't know if I have a problem. I don't know, you know, I don't know if I should be here. And I'll never forget, and this should apply to anybody that's being intervened on. He just goes, let me ask you this. Do you think anybody that doesn't have a problem would be on this call right now? He was like, is your mom going to join this call? Is your sister? You're on this call for a reason. And you're being intervened on, whether it's Shelley, whether it was me with the drinking, whether it's you with the gambling. Your people around you don't stage interventions because they're killing time before they go to their second gig. They're doing it because they're like, hey, if I don't do something, this dude is going to die or worse. And, you know, if I had kept on that track, I think that was definitely on deck, especially because I was like a good drinker.
Yeah.
And meaning like I wasn't combative. My drinking didn't cause people to want to move away from me. It really made, you know, it gave me a community, you know, because I was a fun drunk. You were a fun drunk when you weren't a drinker though. But, you know, like, so I think it almost in a weird way makes it worse. So when the people that you love and hang out with are like, yo, you might have a problem, you might want to listen to them. All right, let's get to this, Forrest.
Yeah, well, I will say one more thing, though.
Please.
Just one more thing.
Please.
I think that it's like everything in life, it's an accumulation of everything. And it's also whatever works for you too, you know, because everyone's like, you need to do this or you need to do that. It's whatever works for you to make your life more manageable. But a running theme constantly with people that are addicts is trying to fill some sort of hole. They don't have self-appreciation for who they are, low self-esteem, that kind of, you know. And so in the end, it's about you working on yourself. So you can have people that are going to say something or intervene or whatever, but you're still going to have to do that work on yourself. You know, and I'm not an expert. I'm a comedian that does a podcast about addiction, but I just know over the years that like that work on yourself is the most important part. But if you get a little bit of help, that's why I just tell people, like, just reach out to people. If you know somebody that you think needs help, don't worry about whether you do or not. Like, I mean, that's your own thing, too. But if you see something, like, say something to them, So,
Absolutely. All right. Now, Forrest, before we go any further, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Spider. Let's do it. Oh, shout out Spider Moving. I actually, Forrest, Spider Moving and Storage has been it's been our first sponsor for a long time. Y'all, you know the number. Give Vlad and the boys a call, 303-544-4000. Actually just went, Vlad and his family are from the Ukraine, and I went to go, we went to the Colorado Buffalo game on Colorado Buffalo's game on Saturday. Then Sunday we met up with Vlad and his mom, who was over from the Ukraine, and we went to the Padres game. But he's just a hardworking kid, and he's done well for himself. He's got his own moving company. They've moved me twice, and they sponsor this podcast. So, Forrest, basically the premise of this segment is just if there's like a little thing that you're moving on from, just something that's like bothers you, like slightly, like a little bit of a pet peeve, something you're kind of done with. Is there anything that kind of bothers you? Not a major thing, just like a little pet peeve that you're moving on from.
Wait, I'm moving on from it, you mean?
Like you're just like over it. You're done with it.
Oh, like I don't like it still, but
yeah, that's good.
Man, I've been saying this a lot recently, so it's just on the top of my mind is if you have a business, I just want to be able to talk to a person at some point. Like I get my dog food from Farmer's Dog, and they are the best bit. Like the boutique dog food people are amazing. I have 2 dog food companies I work for, and you can text or get someone on the phone within seconds. Versus like, man, I'm going to be at a hotel. I'm not going to say it next week in Las Vegas where I'm working, and their entire phone system is virtual now. It's like, hey, how you doing? And they pretend that they're real. That's what I don't like. It's like, how are you doing? I'm Becky. And it's like, I know you're not real. And then it's like, and then you're like, you can't help me, customer service. I think you'll find I can help you. No, don't say that. Don't act like you're real. Like I want the robots to still sound like robots until they're not robot. Like I want them to be like, hello, I am an S. I don't want to be like, oh wow, that's too bad that you're having a rough time. Maybe I can still help. It's like, shut up. And I'm just yelling. And now sometimes they used to be able to press 0 or customer service have it set up, and it's like that is not a appropriate number. And it's like, thanks for calling, bye. And then they'll just hang up on you, and then you call back.
Yes.
And you're ramped up again, like
And you know what the worst part about that is, when they hang up on you and you look at the phone, you see all the numbers you had to press to just get there, because you see the 1 for English, and then £, and then 3 for customer returns. And then so you see you're like, I got to answer all these questions just to get up to that part. It's like when you used to play a video game and you would get to the end and you couldn't beat the last guy. But you had to go through all the levels again, and you're just like, I can't. Let me just, weirdly.
Yeah. That's what it's like, because you've memorized it now. You're like, all right, I know when I call, it's like 2, 4, 7, like all the triangle.
Yeah, yeah. It's so counterintuitive, because it's almost like a common thought in our society where everybody's just like, you know what I hate? The DMV. You know what I hate? Calling my health insurance. You know what I hate? Going to the post office. I go to the post office for Nico and Jolie. Thank you for supporting. Please buy some shoes and glasses. I'm wearing them now. But so I'm at the post office a lot. I had to call my health insurance twice this week, and I talked to real people. You could tell they're just like young, like a young Puerto Rican dude. It's like 26. He's like, what's up? He's like literally called me boss a couple times. No problem, boss. Yeah. I got you. And it was just such a pleasant effing experience. And I told the guy, I was sitting in front of the post office, and I told the guy, and I was worried that I sounded like I was being a jerk, but I was just like, I just want to tell you, you're really good at your job. Like I was like, I've been dreading this phone call, and it was like I called you and you walked me through my health insurance. He was just like, and it was just like with a person, it's just quicker. It's like, well, did you talk to your doctor? Because if you don't get that prescription, we can't authorize that. Rather than it's just going, well, Forrest, let's see if we can try another way to help you. And it's that weird robotic, like you said, it's like the way a sex bot would talk to you. Or do you want some loving honey? It's just like, that's gross. And what, stop it.
And sometimes, like, I primarily fly Delta as a comedian. I fly all the time. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, going to be a million miler soon because I
are you really?
fly so
Wow.
much. But occasionally, I'll fly a different airline. Yeah, it's not a great, to me, it's not a milestone you want to get to. It means you've spent too much time in an airplane. But if I call Delta, they pick up immediately. It's just a nice person that's like, what do you need? We're going to do it because I have status with them. But if occasionally I fly other airlines because you just have to. And then sometimes you have to call them up and it is, we can call you back in 3 hours. You're just like, thanks, Southwest.
Yeah.
We
give 0 Fs. That's why I say you got to be loyal, because if you don't get to that gold or like whatever the next level up customer service number is, you don't even have to even platinum million, but just whatever just being like, I'm the lowest level of Hyatt member, like I'm an Explorers or whatever, but it's just enough where I get that phone number. So if like if you call and you're just like, can I have a late checkout till 4? They're like, fine. Like they'll at least like where it's just like anybody else, they're like, dude, get the F out of here. Another thing I will say, Forrest, and I don't know if this is something I'm moving on from, because I think it's where we are this past, I'll just say in the last couple weekends, just so I don't point out anybody exactly. But I recently stayed in a hotel and the person working overnights was clearly on drugs. Clear. The way, like when we used to go to after hours places and you'd be like, oh, that girl in the corner's on drugs. Like clear. But I just think a lot of these places now, there's not that pipeline of people to hire. So now people are just like, she's really good with the auditing. She's good with the numbers. All right, Forrest, let's get to this really quickly because this is kind of crazy. And I know Michael Dean's got some videotapes. So let's go to Australia. All right, Forrest, I'm sure you know this influencer and you follow him. The real Tarzan, a U.S. influencer, is under investigation because he was in Australia, a place where you've been many times. Yep. And he wrestles crocodiles for Instagram clout. Should influencers, do you think, face penalties for dangerous stunts? Because once that gator has his arm in its mouth, somebody else now has to go in there and open those jaws, and then now they're in danger. So should you be remember those influencers taking pictures at Chernobyl years ago?
Yeah.
Like, it really annoys me when influencers do stuff like that, but it gets views and that's how they pay their bills.
What? He was wrestling a crocodile in Australia? They're like 20 feet long.
Michael Dean, do you have that video? Maybe he was getting
Oh, it's a younger one, a juvenile. This guy.
Fuck.
First of all, that guy's ripped. But
I was thinking, I was like, man, fuck him.
He doesn't have any other. That's the only fun he has. He doesn't have any fun eating food. Clearly, that is okay. So that is a crocodile, but that has got to be a juvenile or a smaller crocodile. So he is literally messing with a baby crocodile on top of that. Because in Australia, unlike in America, the American crocodiles maybe get like saltwater ones like 11 feet, 10 feet, which is still big, and they're more timid. The ones in Australia are massive. I mean, like 20 plus feet. I mean, you've seen crocodile, those big ones. So this guy not only is going to like just run after animals and grab them, that he's doing it to baby ones on top of that, because there's no way he's messing with a real crocodile.
Is it like when Kramer got his black belt doing karate against those kids in Seinfeld?
Yeah, it's exactly what he just did. But by the way, I would not grab that crocodile. I don't have the strength or the even the want to do that. But I hate that. Like he's grabbing and he's like, look at the like, what is he? It's that I'm. There are people pissed at him.
Yes, I mean I'm sure the PETA people aren't happy just in general, and that crocodile doesn't seem happy. That one doesn't seem too. That looks like it's at least 6 feet.
Small, but
Yeah, no, it's still big, but they're massive. Like
okay, and that's a crocodile, not a gator.
That's a crocodile. Yeah. That's
Okay, what's the difference? I'm glad we have a marine biologist on.
Mammals.
Well, I mean, I'm not a. I didn't study crocodiles, but generally, I mean, I just in Australia, I don't think they have alligators. First of all,
At the eyes.
Crocodiles are generally they can be freshwater or saltwater. Alligators are generally fresh, but usually that snout is more pointed like that. I don't know if you saw it, so it's like a little bit. There's usually a little pointier. That's an Australian one, so it's different than American. But you could, I'm sure you can see. He also says it genus species. You didn't hear him.
No,
he said it just like
he's dropping knowledge as well.
Like whatever he tried to. Yeah, he even says it can get up to 7 meters there. Yeah, so that's like 20 feet, 23 feet, and the head will be the size, like half the size of that crocodile's body right there. Massive.
That's insane.
And see how it's like narrower, the jaw like goes to a point there.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a. That's one of the. But this guy, now look at him. He's like just lifting it up.
How do you put it down at that point?
It'll go away from him. This size crocodile, I imagine, is again why he's going after this one. Will scurry away from him. Versus the bigger one would have just killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Forrest, I want to get to this story. So, because I don't even know if you remember, but you have a story related to this. So let's play this thinger. I made all these because I'm proud of myself.
To be near you feels like heaven in the afternoon.
All right. Forrest, we are talking about shady friends. I just feel like there's something in the world of men where we don't understand the dynamics and sometimes the shade that is thrown when it comes to weddings, maids of honor, people slighted because they felt like they should have been the maid of honor, all that kind of stuff. But a maid of honor, with the story that we have, ghosts the bride 10 days before the wedding. So, once they stop answering, when you're like, so do you get your final measurements for your dress? And you get crickets, you're like, what are you doing, dude? Because I know you're setting up for something shady. They ghost the bride 10 days before the wedding and then post the Zen yoga pic with her shady ex. Is that extinction level event for a friendship? Like, because it seems like something a flaky friend would do, but then you don't pick your flaky friend to be your maid of honor, because they got like responsibilities, right? They got to organize shit.
Yeah. First of all, you should know this. You've been married before. You have responsibilities. Do you remember I was in your party? I was a groomsman.
I remember that. Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure you remember.
There's some stories around that as well.
The maid of honor. The maid of honor's got tons of responsibilities that they have to do. I mean, besides the fact that that's like who they're leaning on for the whole wedding, to be there for anything they need, especially the day of the wedding. So I think that if it's something you didn't want to do, you would have to be honest with them at the beginning. 10 days before the wedding is, I mean, I guess it gives you enough time to kind of like, go and, find some, like, have one of the other bridesmaids like step up and do it. But you're talking about going like exterminating as a friend. That's what you're saying. I
mean, could you come back for me if I did that?
Look, I'm not saying I would never talk to you again, but it would alter our relationship to where I probably would talk to you less and less and less until it was gone.
Right?
Because I wouldn't just be like, never call me again, but I would just be like, cool. Anyways, and then I probably wouldn't see you for a couple months, and maybe we'd run into each other. I think it would just be the beginning of the end for me, because I'm
right.
But I don't blame this woman if she just cut her off, and it's terrible. Like, I'm not a huge fan of weddings, by the way, just to put that out there. But if you've agreed to be a part of a wedding and do a responsibility, it's like agreeing to a job and then just quitting like the day before, you know, and then you just, all this prep that you've done and stuff for it, you know?
Yeah. And also like it's not even like quitting a job theoretically, unless it's like a fighter pilot, you can probably find a replacement even if they're not as good. Like your maid of honor should be like an irreplaceable, like somebody that is going to be in pictures after we're all gone. Like you're going to be seen in pictures that my great grandkids will see theoretically. And like, so to abdicate that kind of responsibility, and it made me think about, you can no names, please, but like you went to a wedding in Hawaii. Do you remember that? That wasn't?
Of course I remember it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little different. It's like kind of a fun. It wasn't. So, but by the way, I was just thinking of the extra person that so everyone moved up one notch, and then there was a bridesmaid's like, oh yeah, you were going to be our next choice. And she's like, screw you.
Yeah.
But, my friend, it wasn't a destination wedding per se because he lived in Hawaii, and the woman he was marrying lived both from Florida, but we all flew from Florida.
By the way, that's a flex when you can just tell somebody
it's
not a destination wedding. I live here.
Yeah. Yeah. So to Oahu it was on the North Shore of Oahu. And we spent, it was like a 9-day trip, and on like day 7 or 8 he was getting married, right? So we went there early because it was like, we're gonna go hiking, we're gonna go to the waterfalls, swim with turtles, and we did all that, and it was awesome, you know. But behind the scenes, my friend's family had some money, and his parents presented a prenuptial agreement for the bride to sign months and months ahead of time. She initially said, fine, I'll send it to the lawyer. Comes to find out, once everybody had landed on the island, she came up to him like privately and said, hey, by the way, I never sent that to my lawyer. I'm not signing it. Deal with that. And so that whole week, to his credit, I did not know, because we were like hiking around doing stuff, waterfalls. Oh, check out that seal, you know. And he just in his head is like trying to deal with all this, because now his parents are there and they're saying, you know, you're not getting married and this, whatever. And then cut to like the night before the wedding, she basically said, hey, you know what? I'm not showing up to the altar tomorrow. We're not going to get married. I'm not signing the prenup. So you can either be there alone tomorrow, or you can call off the wedding. Those are so I got a call at like 5 a.m. from my friend. And he was like, can you please come pick me up? Because they were living together. And I came to pick him up, and it was all her brothers like posturing. And I just picked up my friend. And then his mom, you know what's funny is, because here's a rule. Who knows? I didn't know this was actual. His mom drove to the house afterwards and was like, yeah, we need that engagement ring back, because I don't know if it was part of the family, but it was very expensive. And she goes, no, this was a gift from Chris to me. And his mom was like, I don't know if you know how this works. That's not a gift. That right. is part of the wedding. And there was a cop there that was just because the cop was he was like, they were getting some belongings out of the house too. So they wanted to be civil. And he was just kind of like, yeah, it's not your ring, you know, whatever. And I think he eventually got it back. But one of my friends, you know, what's so funny is like we still had a really good time. So it's kind of like it was a weird place to be. We're like, well, this is awesome in Hawaii. But then that was a really somber day. But one of my friends who's never reads the room ever, who's really good friends with the to-be groom, when we finally got him back to the house, we're sitting there. It's me, friends, my mom, and we're just kind of like saying, hey, you know what? We'll distract you today and whatever. And then my buddy Charlie was there. He goes, hey, so what are we going to do today? And we all just looked at him like, yeah. We're trying to make him feel better.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's your friends that crack that first joke to just be like, this sucks, but like, we will get past that.
Yeah.
And just like you telling me that like she waited until everybody was on the island, and then the night before, those were all just like any business negotiation. It was just leverage, because before you can call it off easier when people are still at home.
Can I tell you one thing?
Yeah.
One thing that I was happy about the wedding getting called off is when I got off the plane, Chris, that's who's gonna get married, handed me like a $300 ukulele, and he's like, you play guitar. You're gonna play Somewhere Over the Rainbow, where my sister sings it. I don't know how to play ukulele or Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So I'm sitting there trying to learn Somewhere Over the Rainbow on a ukulele. Like, I'm not gonna be good at it, right? It's like going back to and so when the wedding, there was a part of me that was like, whew. I was like, I don't have to play.
The world was denied your ukulele debut.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah.
All right. Well, Forrest, I do want to, guys, I want to let all the colleagues know that you guys remember. And Forrest, you saw the commercial that Tori and I were in, the law commercial.
Of course. I get calls about it all the time. I'm like,
Yes.
how's in this commercial?
Well, yes. Well, they are an official sponsor of Friends from Work. And I'm going to play it for you now. This is the debut voice for us. So here we go.
And if you've been injured in an accident, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by. You can find out how much money you can potentially get for your accident. I'm Tori Schulman here with my co-host Al Jackson. Al, tell the viewers at home who should be calling right now.
Well, Tori, it's like you said, anyone that's been injured in an accident, give us a call right now and find out how much money you can potentially get for your accident.
Thanks, Al. You
So, guys, make sure to call that number. And Michael Dean, if we don't have a banner, we'll have one for tomorrow. That specific number that's on there is for the show. So anytime that you call, if you have any question about anything having to do with like an injury or an accident or something that happened to you, call that number, and it definitely helps the show out. We appreciate it, and we appreciate our friends at the Injury Help Center. So there we go. Michael Dean, you're just on it. So yeah, call the Injury Help Center since Michael Dean got it together. 800-316-7500. So that's what's up. Forrest, this hour went by too fast. You are definitely welcome back. But before you come back, we want to know where you're going to be. We have colleagues all over the country. You travel all over the country for stand-up, a lot more than I do. So tell us where you're going to be next.
I'm going to be in Las Vegas next week at the Comedy Cellar at the Rio, if you're in Vegas at all, for the entire week of next week, Monday through Sunday. Then I'm going to be in Boise, Idaho at the Lounge at the End of the Universe. And then I have a very long tour where I'm going to be all over Florida, pretty much anywhere in Florida for November and December, and parts of Texas, like Austin, Plano, and Texas as well. But I'm going to be in Key West, Miami, Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Pierce. It's all on ForrestShaw.net. Chandler, Arizona. Go to ForrestShaw.net. Forrest with 2 R's. There you go. It's all there.
Perfect. All right, buddy. You did great. On behalf of the colleagues, I want to tell you I appreciate you. Love you, buddy. Come back soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun, man.